Everything you know about Stoicism exists because one man lost everything. His ship, his cargo, his entire fortune, gone in a single storm. And in that moment of total loss, instead of collapsing into despair, he discovered something that would change philosophy forever. His name was Zeno. And before that shipwreck, he was nobody important. Just a merchant trading purple dye across the Mediterranean. Comfortable, successful, completely ordinary. But the sea had other plans. When his ship went down near Athens around 300 BC, Zeno washed ashore with nothing. No money, no connections, no plan. Just a stranger in a foreign city, starting from zero. Most people would have been destroyed by this. They would have spent years mourning what they lost, cursing their luck, blaming the gods. But Zeno did something different. He walked into a bookshop, and there he encountered ideas that would lead him to create one of the most influential philosophies in human history. A philosophy that would guide emperors, inspire revolutionaries, and help millions of people find peace in chaos. We call it Stoicism, but it almost didn't exist. Because if that ship hadn't sunk, if Zeno had remained a comfortable merchant, the philosophy that helped Marcus Aurelius rule Rome, that sustained slaves like Epictetus, that guides people today through their darkest moments, none of it would exist. Today, you're going to discover the unlikely origin story of Stoicism, the man who created it, the crisis that forged it, and the radical ideas that made it timeless. By the end, you'll understand why the worst thing that ever happened to Zeno became the best thing that ever happened to philosophy. If you're here, you're not looking for surface-level history. You're looking for wisdom that actually works. Subscribe if you're serious about this, because the story you're about to hear proves something crucial. Your worst moments might be preparing you for your greatest work. Let's meet the man who proved it. The merchant before the storm. Before the shipwreck, Zeno was unremarkable. Born around 334 BC in Citium, a city in Cyprus, he came from a merchant family. His father was in the purple dye trade, extracting expensive pigment from sea snails. It was profitable work, respectable, safe. Zeno followed in his footsteps. He learned the business, made the trades, sailed the routes, built a comfortable life doing what his family had always done, and he was good at it. By his early 30s, he had accumulated significant wealth. He had ships, cargo, a future that looked secure, but he was also restless. Ancient sources tell us that even during his merchant years, Zeno was drawn to philosophy. His father would bring him books from Athens, philosophical texts, dialogues, ideas that stirred something in him. He read them during long sea voyages, between ports, in quiet moments when the business of commerce gave way to the deeper questions of existence. What is the good life? What truly matters? How should a person live? But he was a merchant. Philosophy was a hobby, not a calling. Something to think about, not something to dedicate your life to. And then the storm came. We don't know the exact details. Was it a sudden squall? A navigational error? Bad luck? What we know is this. Somewhere near the coast of Attica, Zeno's ship went down. The cargo was lost. The fortune disappeared beneath the waves. And Zeno, soaked and exhausted, dragged himself onto the shore near Athens with nothing but his life. He was around 30 years old. Everything he'd spent his adult life building was gone. Most people in this situation would panic, would immediately start trying to rebuild, to recover, to get back to where they were. But Zeno did something unexpected. According to the historian Diogenes Laertius, who documented Zeno's life centuries later, Zeno wandered into a bookshop in Athens and asked the shopkeeper for recommendations about philosophy. The shopkeeper handed him a book about Socrates, and as Zeno read, something clicked. He looked up and asked, "Where can I find men like this?" At that exact moment, the cynic philosopher Crates walked by. The shopkeeper pointed and said, "Follow that man." And Zeno did. That moment changed everything, because instead of viewing his shipwreck as a catastrophe to recover from, Zeno began to see it as liberation. The universe had stripped away everything external, his wealth, his status, his comfortable identity as a merchant. And in doing so, it had freed him to become something else. Years later, after establishing his own school and philosophy, Zeno would say, "I made a prosperous voyage when I suffered shipwreck." Think about that. The worst thing that happened to him, he came to see as the best thing, not because he was in denial, not because he was pretending it didn't hurt, but because it redirected his entire life towards something more meaningful than commerce. The shipwreck didn't destroy his life. It revealed what his life could actually be. The student years. After that encounter in the bookshop, Zeno became a student. First of Crates, the cynic philosopher who believed in living with radical simplicity. Crates owned nothing, lived on the streets, challenged every social convention. This was a shock to Zeno's system. He'd come from wealth, from respectability, from a world where reputation mattered and social standing defined you. And here was Crates, teaching that all of it was worthless. That true freedom came from needing nothing, from depending on no external thing for your happiness. The training was brutal. Crates would humiliate Zeno publicly to break down his attachment to reputation. One famous story tells of Crates making Zeno carry a pot of lentil soup through the streets of Athens. When Zeno showed embarrassment about being seen doing menial work, Crates smashed the pot with his walking stick, and soup poured all over Zeno's expensive clothes. As Zeno fled in shame, trying to hide his soaked and stained appearance, Crates called after him, "Why run, my little Phoenician? Nothing terrible has happened to you." The lesson: your dignity isn't damaged by external events, only by your opinion of them. The soup on your clothes doesn't make you less worthy. Your embarrassment does. This kind of training happened repeatedly. Crates would make Zeno do things that violated his sense of propriety, forced him to confront his need for approval, challenged his assumptions about what mattered. And slowly, painfully, Zeno began to understand. The shame he felt wasn't from the actions themselves. It was from caring what strangers thought, from valuing their opinions more than his own character. But Zeno wasn't satisfied with cynicism alone. It was too extreme, too dismissive of everything civilized. The cynics rejected society completely, calling themselves citizens of the world who owed nothing to any particular community. But Zeno believed humans were social beings who needed community. That completely rejecting society wasn't living according to nature. It was fighting against our social nature. Yes, you shouldn't depend on society's approval, but you should contribute to society's well-being. So he studied with other teachers. Stilpo, the Megarian, master of logic and dialectic. From Stilpo, Zeno learned how to construct rigorous arguments, how to detect logical fallacies, how to think with precision and clarity. This wasn't just abstract intellectual exercise. Logic was a tool for living well. If your thinking is sloppy, your life will be sloppy. If your reasoning is sound, your choices improve. Then he studied with Polemo at Plato's academy, who taught ethics and the natural order of things. From Polemo, Zeno absorbed the idea that virtue isn't arbitrary. It's rooted in nature itself, in how the universe actually works, in what humans actually are. For nearly 20 years, Zeno studied, not passively absorbing, but actively questioning, testing ideas against experience, keeping what worked and discarding what didn't. He took what worked from each school and discarded what didn't. From the cynics, the emphasis on virtue over externals, the idea that you don't need much to be happy, the practice of self-discipline and endurance, the willingness to challenge social conventions that don't serve truth. But he rejected their complete rejection of society, their contempt for learning and culture, their belief that shock value was more important than persuasion. From the academics, the structured approach to ethics, the importance of living according to nature, the idea that the universe operates according to rational principles that we can understand and align with. But he rejected their endless skepticism, their refusal to commit to any definite position, their tendency to make philosophy an intellectual game rather than a guide for living. From the Megarians, the tools of logic and reasoning, the methods for constructing sound arguments and detecting fallacies, the precision in thinking. But he rejected their abstract logic divorced from practical living, their tendency to get lost in theoretical puzzles while ignoring how to actually live well. Zeno was synthesizing, building something new from the best parts of existing schools, a philosophy that was rigorous but practical, idealistic but livable, challenging but accessible, a philosophy that said, yes, virtue is paramount, but you don't have to live like a homeless cynic to achieve it. Yes, reason is crucial, but it needs to be applied to real-life decisions, not just theoretical puzzles. Yes, externals don't determine your happiness, but you can still engage with the world productively. Yes, question everything, but eventually commit to truth and live by it. And around 300 BC, when he was about 35 years old, after nearly 20 years of study, he was ready to teach. Think about that. 20 years as a student. Most people would have rushed it. Started teaching after a few years, eager to be the master rather than the student. But Zeno took his time, absorbed deeply, questioned thoroughly, only taught when he actually had something worth teaching. But he faced an immediate problem. He had no money. The shipwreck had taken his wealth. His years as a student hadn't generated income. He couldn't afford to rent a school building, had no wealthy patron to support him. Most people would have seen this as a fatal obstacle. How can you start a school without resources? So he did what resourceful philosophers do. He found a free space. The Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, a public colonnade in the Agora of Athens decorated with murals depicting Greek military victories. It was just a covered walkway. Nothing fancy, open to the elements on one side. No private rooms for exclusive discussions. Just a public space where people naturally gathered to escape the sun or rain. Perfect. Zeno started teaching there. Just him and whoever would listen. Walking back and forth under the painted columns, discussing philosophy with anyone interested enough to stop and engage. No admission fees, no exclusive membership, no prerequisite education. Just open, public philosophical discussion. And people came. Merchants taking a break from trading, craftsmen finishing their workday, young men seeking education, old men seeking wisdom, rich and poor, citizen and foreigner. Because what Zeno was teaching was different from what you'd hear at the fancy schools. It wasn't abstract theory disconnected from reality. It wasn't impractical idealism. It wasn't intellectual showmanship. It was a comprehensive system for living well in the real world, with all its challenges and complications. A philosophy that actually helped people handle their daily struggles, how to deal with difficult people, how to handle loss, how to maintain your character under pressure, how to find peace in chaos, how to make good decisions, how to be a good parent, spouse, citizen, human. Practical wisdom, tested in Zeno's own life, refined through years of study and thought. He called his students those who study at the Stoa. Eventually, they became known simply as Stoics, and the philosophy, Stoicism, named not after some grand theoretical concept or impressive Greek word, but after the place where it was taught, a painted porch, a public space, available to anyone who wanted to learn. That says everything about what Zeno wanted Stoicism to be: accessible, practical, public. Not for the elite, not for the privileged. Not hidden behind expensive fees or exclusive institutions, for anyone willing to think clearly and live well. The core teachings. So what did Zeno actually teach under that painted porch? The foundation was simple but revolutionary. Virtue is the only true good. Not wealth, not pleasure, not reputation, not health, not success, not power. Virtue, character, excellence of the soul. Everything else? Neutral. Neither good nor bad in themselves. Only how you use them determines their value. This concept, called preferred indifference in later Stoic terminology, was crucial. Zeno wasn't saying wealth doesn't matter at all. He was saying it doesn't have intrinsic moral value. Wealth isn't good or bad. It's neutral. But you can use it virtuously to help others or viciously to dominate them. Health isn't good or bad. It's neutral. But you can use it to serve your community or just indulge yourself. Power isn't good or bad. It's neutral. But you can use it to protect the vulnerable or to crush opposition. Even things typically considered bad, like poverty or illness, are neutral. They're challenging, yes, but they don't make you a worse person unless you let them. This was radical, because most people organize their entire lives around acquiring good things and avoiding bad things. They chase wealth, pleasure, status, health, and they fear poverty, pain, obscurity, sickness. Their entire emotional state depends on whether they're moving toward the good things or away from the bad things. But Zeno said, you're chasing shadows. None of those things have the power you think they have. The only thing that has real power is your character, your choices, your virtue, and that's entirely within your control. This led to the second core teaching, the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to you. Some things are not. What's up to you? Your beliefs, your desires, your judgments, your actions, your responses, your character. What's not up to you? Everything else. Other people's opinions, your reputation, the weather, the economy, whether you get sick, whether you die young, whether your business succeeds, whether people like you. Zeno taught that peace comes from focusing entirely on what you control and accepting everything else as it comes. Don't waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable. You'll just exhaust yourself and accomplish nothing. Don't suffer over things outside your power. Your suffering changes nothing except your own well-being. Instead, focus all your attention on what is within your power, becoming a better person, making better choices, developing better character. Do that and you'll find peace regardless of external circumstances. The third core teaching, live according to nature. This doesn't mean go live in the woods or reject civilization. It means understand your nature and the nature of the universe and align yourself with both. You are a rational being, so use reason. Don't be controlled by irrational emotions or impulses. Feel emotions, yes, but don't let them dictate your actions. You are a social being, so contribute to your community. Don't isolate yourself. Help others. Build relationships. Fulfill your role in society. You are a mortal being, so accept that everything changes, including you. Don't cling to permanence in a universe of constant flux. Don't rage against the inevitable. You are part of nature. So accept natural processes: birth, growth, decay, death. These aren't tragedies. They're just how the universe works. When you live according to your nature and the nature of reality, you experience eudaimonia, often translated as happiness, but better understood as flourishing, living well, fulfilling your potential as a human being. This wasn't just theory. Zeno lived it. He was known for his simplicity. He owned very little, ate plain food, wore simple clothes, lived in a small room. He was known for his consistency. He practiced what he taught, didn't lecture about virtue while living viciously. He was known for his self-discipline. He could endure cold, heat, hunger, discomfort without complaining. His training under crates had made him resilient. But he wasn't a killjoy or ascetic. Ancient sources describe him as having a sense of humor, enjoying wine in moderation, appreciating beauty and art. The point wasn't to deny yourself everything. The point was to not be controlled by anything. You could enjoy wealth without needing it, appreciate pleasure without chasing it, value health without fearing sickness, participate in society without depending on approval. This balance is what made Stoicism different from other philosophies of the time. The Cynics said, reject everything external, live like a dog, need nothing, shock society. The Epicureans said, pursue pleasure, but only the sustainable kind that doesn't lead to greater pain. The academics said, we can't know anything for certain, so stay skeptical about everything. The Aristotelians said virtue is important, but you also need external goods like wealth and health to truly flourish. But Zeno said, engage with the world. Use your reason, develop your character, and don't be controlled by anything external. You can flourish even in poverty, even in sickness, even in obscurity, as long as you maintain your virtue. It was practical, livable, powerful, and it spread. The school grows and Zeno's death. For nearly 50 years, Zeno taught at the Stoa Poikile. Think about that. 50 years, half a century of daily teaching, walking back and forth under those painted columns, engaging with whoever showed up. Some days it was crowded, other days just a few listeners. But Zeno showed up, consistently, reliably, for decades. Students came from all over the Greek world. Some stayed for years, dedicating themselves to philosophy, becoming philosophers themselves who would carry the torch forward. Others just attended a few lectures, absorbed what resonated, and applied the principles to their merchant careers, their family lives, their civic duties. But all were influenced by what they heard. Zeno trained a generation who would carry Stoicism forward after his death. Cleanthes, perhaps his most important student initially, who was a former boxer and water carrier. He was poor, working at night drawing water from wells so he could study philosophy during the day. Sometimes he was so exhausted he'd fall asleep during lectures, but he persisted. Zeno saw something in him, not brilliance or quick wit, but character, persistence, genuine commitment to becoming better. Cleanthes would succeed Zeno as head of the school, leading it for 30 years and preserving the founder's teachings. He emphasized the cosmic and religious dimensions of Stoicism, the idea that divine reason permeates the universe and that aligning with it is our purpose. Then there was Chrysippus, who would become the third head of the school and systematize Stoicism into a comprehensive philosophical system that could compete with Plato's Academy and Aristotle's Lyceum. Chrysippus was brilliant, a master of logic, a prolific writer who would author over 700 works. Most now lost, but in their time they shaped how Stoicism was understood for centuries. There was a saying in ancient Athens, if there had been no Chrysippus, there would have been no Stoa. Meaning, without his systematization and defense of Stoic ideas, the school might not have survived the intellectual challenges from other philosophical movements. Aristo, Aurelius, Dionysius, other students who would go on to teach their own students, spreading Stoic ideas throughout the Mediterranean world, adapting them to different contexts and audiences. But Zeno didn't just influence philosophers and students. He influenced power. Antigonus II Gonatas, king of Macedonia, one of the most powerful rulers of the Hellenistic world, invited Zeno to his court multiple times. He wanted the philosopher as his personal advisor, to teach him how to rule with virtue, how to make wise decisions, how to maintain character despite the corrupting influence of absolute power. This shows how seriously ancient rulers took philosophy. They understood that power without wisdom leads to tyranny, that being able to do whatever you want doesn't mean you should. That character matters more than conquest. Zeno declined the invitations. He was too old to travel, he said, too committed to his students in Athens. The daily practice of teaching mattered more than the prestige of advising a king. But he didn't leave Antigonus empty-handed. He sent Perseus, one of his accomplished students, to teach the king Stoic philosophy. A king, learning from the student of a former shipwrecked merchant. Learning that virtue matters more than power, that external things like kingdoms and armies don't determine your worth. That character is everything. That how you rule matters more than what you rule. This pattern would repeat throughout Stoic history, though Zeno wouldn't live to see most of it. The philosophy that started with a broke refugee teaching in a public porch would eventually guide Roman emperors, council kings, sustain slaves, and inspire revolutionaries. Because it worked, not just as elegant theory, as practice, as a way of actually living. People who adopted Stoic principles found they could handle difficulty better, maintain their composure when others panicked, lead with wisdom instead of just force, live with integrity even when no one was watching. They became more resilient in crisis, less reactive to provocation, more focused on what mattered instead of what was merely urgent or dramatic. And they told others, shared what helped them, and those others shared with others. And the philosophy spread organically, person to person, life to changed life. Zeno lived to see his ideas take root across the Greek-speaking world, to see his students flourish and establish their own schools in other cities, to see Stoicism become one of the major philosophical movements discussed and debated alongside the grand old schools founded by Plato and Aristotle. But he never lost sight of where it started. A shipwreck, a total loss, a moment when everything external was stripped away. And in that stripping away, the discovery of what actually matters. That memory kept him grounded, kept him from becoming arrogant or detached, kept him teaching in a public porch rather than building an impressive private academy, kept him accessible to anyone who wanted to learn, not just the wealthy or connected. He never forgot. He was just a shipwrecked merchant who got lucky enough to discover philosophy when he had nothing left to lose. Zeno died around 262 BC at approximately 72 years old. The story of his death is perfectly, beautifully Stoic. According to ancient accounts by Diogenes Laertius and others, Zeno was leaving the school one day after teaching when he tripped and fell, breaking his finger or possibly his toe. Sources vary on the exact injury. Not a serious injury for a young person, just painful and annoying, something you'd recover from quickly with rest. But Zeno was old. His body had been declining, and he took the fall as a sign, a message from nature that his time had come. As he lay on the ground, he struck the earth with his hand and quoted a line from the Niobe, a lost tragedy by an ancient playwright. I come, why do you call for me? It's darkly humorous. Nature is calling, death is summoning, and Zeno is responding with acceptance and even a bit of wit. I'm coming, stop rushing me. Then, according to the most dramatic version of the story, he walked home, refused food, and died shortly after. Some say by holding his breath, though this is likely dramatization by later sources who wanted a more theatrical ending. What's more likely is that Zeno, feeling his body failing and recognizing that death was near, simply accepted it, didn't fight it, didn't desperately cling to a few more days or weeks of existence, just acknowledged, my time is done, nature is finished with me, and I accept that. This sounds bizarre to modern ears, possibly even like suicide, but that's misunderstanding what happened and what Stoics believed. The ancient sources suggest Zeno was already old, frail, and likely in declining health. The fall and broken bone were just final signs that his body was giving out, that his natural lifespan was complete, and rather than clinging desperately to life, rather than fighting against the natural end of things with fear and resistance, he accepted it, peacefully, calmly, even with a bit of dark humor about answering nature's call. I come. I'm ready. My work is done. My time is finished, and I meet this end with the same acceptance I taught others to cultivate. This is the Stoic attitude toward death. Not fear and avoidance, not desperate clinging to every last breath, just acceptance. You were born, you'll die. That's the natural order. Fighting it accomplishes nothing except creating suffering in your final moments. The question isn't whether you'll die. You will. The question is, how will you live in between? And when the time comes, will you meet death with dignity or with terror? Zeno had answered that question through 50 years of teaching, 50 years of showing people how to live well, how to develop character, how to focus on what matters, how to align with nature rather than fight against it. And when his time came, he demonstrated the final lesson: how to die well, how to recognize when nature is finished with you, how to accept it without drama or resistance, how to meet the end with the same virtue you practiced in life. The Athenians honored him greatly after his death. They erected a bronze statue of him in the Agora, gave him a public funeral, an honor reserved for those who had greatly benefited the city, passed an official decree recognizing his contribution to philosophy and to Athens, praising him for making citizens better through his teaching. The decree, partially preserved, commended Zeno for exhorting to virtue and self-control those young men who came to him for instruction, directing them to what is best, affording to all an example of the greatest consistency between his teaching and his life. That last part is crucial. Consistency between his teaching and his life. Not because he was rich, not because he had political power, not because he conquered anyone or built monuments or founded an empire, but because he taught people how to be better human beings. And he lived what he taught. His life matched his words. His character matched his philosophy. That's legacy, not what you accumulate, not what you achieve in worldly terms, but what you embody and share with others, what you help them become. Zeno started with nothing, a shipwrecked merchant in a foreign city with no money, no connections, no prospects, and he created something that lasted millennia. Not through force, not through wealth, not through political maneuvering, through ideas, through teaching, through living with integrity and helping others do the same. That's power, real, lasting power, the kind that outlives bronze statues and stone monuments. The legacy. After Zeno's death, Stoicism didn't die with him. It evolved, grew, spread in ways he probably never imagined. The school kept teaching at the Stoa Poikile and in other locations for centuries, producing generations of philosophers who spread Stoic ideas throughout the Mediterranean world. Eventually, Stoicism spread to Rome, and there it would find its golden age. Its most famous practitioners, all of them traced their philosophical lineage back to that shipwrecked merchant who wandered into a bookshop in Athens and asked, "Where can I find men like this?" But Stoicism's influence didn't end when Rome fell. It influenced the Enlightenment. Thinkers who valued reason, natural law, and individual autonomy drew explicitly on Stoic principles. Descartes, Spinoza, Kant, all were influenced by Stoic ideas about reason, virtue, and living according to nature. And Stoicism is influencing people right now, today, this moment. There's been a massive resurgence of interest in Stoic philosophy in the 21st century. The principles Zeno taught 2,300 years ago under a painted porch still work today. Focus on what you control, accept what you don't. Develop your character above all external achievements. Live according to reason and nature, not impulse and social pressure. Don't be controlled by external things. Pleasure, pain, wealth, poverty, praise, criticism. Practice virtue in your daily life, wisdom, courage, justice, self-control. Simple, not easy, but simple and proven, not just in theory, in practice. by millions of people across millennia, from emperors to slaves, from ancient Greece to modern Silicon Valley, from Rome to San Francisco. People in crisis turn to Stoicism and find it helps. People facing uncertainty find it provides a framework for staying sane. People overwhelmed by things they can't control find it shows them what they can control, themselves. Lessons from the shipwreck. What can we learn? First, your worst moments might be redirecting you, not destroying you. Zeno's shipwreck looked like catastrophe, but it freed him to become who he was meant to be. Second, education never stops. Zeno was 30 when he started studying philosophy, 20 years as a student before teaching, never too old to learn or pivot. Third, simplicity is power. Zeno taught at a free public space, owned little. This freedom let him focus on what mattered. Fourth, teach what you've learned. Zeno shared freely, and his ideas outlived him by millennia. Fifth, live what you teach. Zeno's power was consistency. He didn't just talk about virtue, he embodied it. You might be in your storm right now, everything washing away. But remember Zeno, he lost everything, and it was the best thing that happened to him. Because it freed him to discover his purpose, to create something meaningful, to build a life of wisdom instead of just wealth. The same might be true for you. This loss might be redirecting you towards something you can't imagine yet. The shipwreck is scary, but it's also liberating, because on the other side of loss is discovery. On the other side of endings are beginnings. Zeno proved it, and so can you. Thank you for being here. Subscribe if this resonated. Share with someone in their shipwreck. And remember, sometimes the best thing that can happen is losing everything you thought you needed, because that's when you discover what you actually need. And that discovery changes everything. I'll see you in the next one.